Let's get a response now from Senator Bernie Sanders. He's here live in the studio this morning. Senator Sanders, welcome back. You just heard Secretary Clinton right there, implicit defense of her fundraisers in California last night, saying she's raising money for Democrats. By contrast, her campaign has said that's something you haven't done.
That's not accurate, George. We have, over the years, sent out a lot of letters for Democratic candidates.
Not in this campaign.
No, not in this campaign. But in the past, we have, and raised millions of dollars for Democratic candidates. But I think the issue is, what is the future of the Democratic Party, and how does raising money and the way you raise money reflect that future? I believe that we got to break away from super PACs. Secretary Clinton has several of them. She has received many millions of dollars, as you know, 15 million in her last reporting period from Wall Street alone, let alone other special interests. We have done it very differently. We have received 7 million individual campaign contributions, averaging $27 apiece, unprecedented in American history. But the bottom line here is, how do you revitalize American democracy? I don't think you do that by raising money from the top 1% and then say to working class people or the middle class, I'm here to represent you. That kind of doesn't pass the laugh test. People see that. And that's why so many people don't vote, why they understand that Congress ends up working for the people on top rather than their interests. So I think we need a revolution in this country, certainly in campaign finance. That means overturning Citizens United. For the Democratic Party, it means an emphasis on getting more working people, young people in the political process, a dependence on small campaign contributions, not big money, the way Secretary Clinton is raising it.
You heard her answer there to your latest ad here in New York, saying your campaign is trying to make something where there is nothing on the minimum wage.
Oh, no, she's just not being accurate on that. And I think, you know, one of the previous clips you showed indicated that. She has, at the beginning of this campaign, said we need a $12 minimum wage. I have said at the very beginning of my campaign, we need to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And that is kind of the difference between the way we do politics. I'm trying to set a high bar. I'm trying to be a leader which says, let's go, America, let's move in the direction we have to go, which she has said.
If there's such a big difference, why does she have the support of the Fight for 15 movement?
Well, she doesn't have the support for the Fight for 15 movement. We have the support of millions of working people. I have been on picket lines in Washington, D.C., out in the street, out in the rain, with those people who are fighting for $15 an hour and the right to organize. But here's the point, George. The point is, it's one thing, as she just said, if a state passes 15, I'll be there. That's good. On the other direction is to say, I'm going to help lead that effort. And that is a metaphor for what this campaign is about. I am trying to be a leader which says we have got to take on big money interests in this country. We have to join the rest of the industrialized world and guarantee health care to all people through a Medicare for all single-payer program. We've got to have legislation in which makes the United States not the only country that doesn't guarantee paid family and medical leave. We've got to make public colleges and universities tuition-free. We can do that. We're the wealthiest country in the history of the world if we have the courage to take on the big money interest. And you can't do that when you're dependent upon them for your fundraising. So I think the difference in the minimum wage discussion you're seeing goes beyond that. I am trying to lead this country in a different direction. What Secretary Clinton just told you is, well, yes, if a state does it, I'll sign the bill.
Or if Congress passes it,
right.
She said as well.
But I want to lead that effort, not just follow.
Let me bring up another issue that came up at the debate on Thursday night, the relationship between the United States and Israel. Here's what you said the relationship should be like going forward.
Of course, Israel has a right to defend itself. But long term, there will never be peace in that region unless the United States plays a role, an even-handed role.
Take that kind of even-handed approach under President Obama?
I think he's done much better than his predecessors, but I think we still have a way to go. And I was not criticizing President Obama. I was criticizing Secretary Clinton. She gave a speech to AIPAC. It's a long speech. There was one sentence, I believe, that even mentioned the Palestinians. The point is that it goes, as I just said on the clip, it goes without saying, Israel, we have to protect 100% Israel's right to exist, its right to live in peace, its right to live in security. But you cannot ignore the suffering of the Palestinian people. And long term, the only way we bring peace into that region...
Do you think Secretary Clinton has ignored the suffering of the Palestinian people?
Well, I think if you listen to her speech, that was the major speech. She had one line on the Palestinian people. I said, and let me repeat it again, is that I think that Israel has every right in the world to respond to terrorism. But I think in the Gaza, it was a disproportionate response You had some 1,500 civilians killed. I think you had 10,000 or so wounded. That was a disproportionate response. And you can't just always nod your head to Netanyahu. He is wrong on occasion.
The head of the ADL said that that comment, it plays into the hands of the image that Israel is the main problem in this conflict.
Well, they could say what they want. I didn't say Israel is the main problem. All I am saying is you cannot ignore the needs of the Palestinian people. Right now, as you know, in Gaza, there is mass destruction that has not been addressed right now. Poverty rate is off the charts. 40% people are unemployed. We are the United States of America. If we want to bring people together, we have got to address those issues.
Let me also ask you about the issue I asked Secretary Clinton about. She said she's not prepared to take a position on that legislation from Senator Schumer backed by the 9/11 families, which would give them the right to sue Saudi Arabia or other states who are held responsible for state-sponsored terror. And they're outraged this morning. The cover of the Daily News, New York Daily News this morning, the families responding to that threat from Saudi Arabia that they would pull out $750 billion in assets from the United States if legislation like that passed. What's your position on that legislation?
Well, we can't be blackmailed. But again, I have to tell you, I am not, I agree with the Secretary on this one, but my nuance is different, though. I have said throughout this campaign that we are not taking a hard enough look at Saudi Arabia. And it's not only the people who came from Saudi Arabia who participated in 9/11. The evidence is pretty clear. Saudi Arabia is one of the most powerful and wealthiest families in the world. That's why they can threaten to withdraw hundreds of billions of dollars from our economy. The evidence is quite clear that sections of that very large royal family have funded Wahhabism, this extremely right-wing fundamentalist ideology, which is what ISIS is about, which is what Al-Qaeda is about. There are schools all over this world that are where children are being educated in this this horrific fundamentalist ideology. That comes from Saudi Arabia.
But you don't support the legislation?
Well, let me look at it. Let me look at it. I mean, I am not all that familiar with it as well. But I do believe Saudi Arabia is playing a very dangerous role in fomenting fundamentalism all over the world.
Finally, I know you hope to win here in New York. The polls show you behind right now. The question I have is do you really have a viable path forward going if you do not win here in New York? You'd have to win all the remaining states by huge, huge landslides.
Well, the answer is we do have a viable role. And no, that's not quite accurate that we have to win by huge. You know, you got California, which is a very large state, and we could pick up a lot of delegates there. And I hope, by the way, we're going to do better than the polls indicate here. I think a lot of the delegates, both pledged delegates and superdelegates, are looking at one very important fact. Turns out that Hillary Clinton is not all that strong a candidate running against Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, or John Kasich. In poll after poll, nationally and in statewide polls, we do a lot better than Clinton does against Trump, against Kasich, and against Cruz. And I think a lot of people are saying, well, I may not like Bernie as much as I like Hillary, but at the end of the day, we must defeat Trump. We must not allow a Republican to get into the White House. Some of those people will come over to us as the stronger candidate.
Senator Sanders, thanks for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.